Say hello to the big, beautiful world. It is the Summer Morning Buzz Monday edition. Once again, I am your host, Kyle Pepitone, joined here today with my co-host, Patrina Geiger, our newscaster, Crystal Santos, and our sportscaster, Campbell Donovan. But before we get into any of that, I want to share this with you all today. So, you all know dictionary.com, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they do a word of the day every day, and every so often I'll look at it because I get notifications for that. And today's caught me by surprise. Today's word of the day is hugger mugger, HUGGER dash MUGGER. And it is an adjective that means secrecy. So if you want to use that word today at some point in your vocabulary, I highly encourage it because that is just a beautiful word. Anyway, how is everybody doing today?
Great, Kyle. I was quite surprised when you said two dashes.
Well, no, there's not two dashes. I just really needed to emphasize that the dash was part of the word.
Great. Wow. Well, I'm doing well now that I have a new word in my vocabulary.
Definitely. But Crystal, what is going on in the world today? What does your newscast have to say?
Honestly, Kyle, I think we don't even need the newscast. You gave us a word of the day, and that's all we need. But on a serious note, we have to be informed what's going on. 15 immigrants detained at the Bergen County Jail filed a complaint with the Department of Homeland Security this month, alleging a dangerous environment with quote, deplorable and inhumane conditions at the facility. NJ.com reported that the joint complaint was filed by Freedom for Immigrants, the Center for Constitutional Rights, and Unlocal Inc., and calls for a thorough investigation into the jail's treatment of those detained. Worry continues as COVID-19 cases continue to rise across the country. NBC News reported that Nebraska, Massachusetts, and Florida are among the top 3 states with hotspots, having the highest number of reported cases in a day compared to the last 2 weeks. The German women's gymnastics team took the floor for the first competition at the Tokyo Olympics, wearing unitards with leggings that stretched down to the ankle. According to ABC News, their intention was to push back against sexualization of women in gymnastics. And now it is time for your morning weather update. It is currently 77 degrees and we are looking at a high of 90 degrees. And tomorrow we are looking at a high of 91 degrees with a low of 66 degrees. And for AQI, our air quality index, it is currently 63, which is considered moderate. Ugh, that temperature though.
Yeah. I mean, it's July. It's been going on all month long. We shouldn't even be surprised at this point. Although, if I remember correctly, this weekend was a bit nicer, a little bit more moderate. So that was good. We got a small break, but we're back to the 90s. But
it's like my friend says, Kyle, I'm not surprised, but I am. But I am disappointed. I can't speak today.
Yeah.
I am disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. It shouldn't come as a surprise at this point. But speaking of the Olympics and sports, we have Campbell Donovan here to give us the latest, and I mean the latest, on sports. Campbell, what is going on?
Thank you, Kyle. And now time for today's sportscast. In baseball, the Yankees blew a 4-0 lead in the bottom of the 8th inning after starter Domingo Germán had no-hit the rival Boston Red Sox through 7 innings, while Alex Rodrigo would change that on a double, and the bullpen for the Box Bombers absolutely imploded after Aaron Boone would take Germán out. And Boston would rack up 5 hits before getting the first out, and the score would have been 4-3. The Red Sox would take the game 5-4 and sit atop a game in first place in the AL East. The Mets win a close one against the Toronto Blue Jays and stay 4 games ahead of the National League East Division lead as Pete Alonso homered and Jeff McNeil would add some insurance runs for the Mets. The big trade from last night, star second baseman from the Pittsburgh Pirates, Adam Frazier, would go to San Diego, and he is now on the Padres for 3 minor league prospects. So the Padres adding some more depth and trying to make a run for the playoffs. The NFL had announced through the weekend for rules for unvaccinated and vaccinated players and members of each 32 team in the organization, including a scenario where in week 18 is now the new added week of the regular season. If a player were to test positive and there were playoff implications, that team would have to forfeit the rest of their remaining games if they were to make the playoffs during that week 18 scenario. And it has caused a rise amongst fans and possibly teams as well. And according to ESPN's Chris Mortensen this morning, the Texans are on the notion of trading star quarterback Deshaun Watson. And the asking price is for 5 high-caliber draft picks and starting caliber players for Houston. And as we're talking about the Olympics, Kayla Ledecky got the silver medal in the 400-meter freestyle event, as Australian Ariane Titmus would take the gold medal. And the Team USA men's basketball team lose their opening group play game to France, 83-76. They have not lost a group play game since 2004 against Argentina. And in soccer now, the United States men's national team would win their Gold Cup quarterfinal match against Jamaica 1-0 on a Matthew Hoppe header in the 83rd minute. They will face Qatar, who will host the next World Cup in the semifinal. And on this day in sports history in 1959, Larry Doby would play his final MLB game. And that is all for today's Sportscast.
Awesome. That was a lot, and that was good. Thank you, Campbell. And now getting into our main story. Brace yourselves for this one. This gym is banning people who have been vaccinated against COVID. From Vice.com, Toronto's Fearless Boxing Club has outlined its vaccine policy, stating that those who have, quote, received the experimental COVID vaccine, end quote, will no longer be allowed entry. In Canada, all available vaccines have been approved by Health Canada and have undergone rigorous trials to prove their safety. The city of Toronto claims COVID vaccines, quote, met the same safety and quality standards required for all vaccines. No steps were skipped in the approval process, end quote. And fitness is only one of a few businesses outlining different COVID and vaccination policies. The chain Gold Life Gym says they won't require staff or guests to be vaccinated. However, if you are, you're still allowed on the premises. But a restaurant in Toronto called Chantekler said all customers dining at the bar will have to show proof of vaccination. A program called Safe to Do also shut down recently due to similar reasons. Safe to Do was a website listing Ontario establishments and businesses that had fully vaccinated staff, but was shut down on the account that these businesses listed were getting bad reviews. The creator of Safe to Do tweeted, quote, this was truly unexpected. I started this website less than a week ago, and it was intended to be apolitical and to provide a resource for those who had lower risk tolerances and or medical conditions that made COVID high risk for them, end quote. And currently in Toronto, about 65% of adults are fully vaccinated. Oh boy. Thoughts, anyone? I'll wait to share my opinions, but what do you all think of this? Because this is not, I'm going to say this. This is not a story you expect to hear coming from Canada. This story says America, but that's all I'm going to say for now.
I beg your pardon with this one, but I was in the wee early hours of the morning trying to understand and read the notion of this article, and I was completely floored looking at it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I know it's Canada and all this stuff, and they're just opening their borders miraculously. This upcoming week, the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be playing within the next week back in their home country after being away for almost 2 years, basically. Wow. So, and I think it's kind of crazy saying that a gym would not allow people who are fully vaccinated against the COVID vaccine to not come in their gym. whether or not if they were or not vaccinated. So it's kind of a little outrageous, the fact that if you're trying to protect others and doing the right thing and sort of being punished and not being allowed into a facility where you want to better yourself, better your body, your health, and your mental and physical aspect. And I mean, the whole country has been, the whole country of Canada has pretty been sheltered within the last year because of their strict policy and the fear of probably spreading the vaccine, and everything's sort of opening up now, and the border is going to be open soon. And I just don't understand how like people would probably tell others, say you're not allowed welcome if you have the shot recorded.
Yeah. When I first read the title, Kyle, I was like, I thought I was reading it wrong. I was like, against like vaccinated,
Yeah.
like, right? Like you would think that like unvaccinated, because it's happened with like restaurants and bars, stuff like that. But I was like, I don't know, I feel like this is definitely a step backwards for Canada. And it's just, you know, we're trying to protect people, like Campbell said, and that's not what they're doing, you know. It just doesn't make any sense. I feel like it's out of pettiness, because, you know, that maybe they're against it or something. I just feel like it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, just makes sense that they would be petty about it rather than like just anything else, you know.
Right. And look, I'm not going to judge anybody whether they agree with the vaccine or not. You're entitled to your own opinion. But this is not the way to go about it. This, like you said, Patrina, seems very off the ground of pettiness. Look, you can be as paranoid about the vaccine as you want. It's your own right to do so. But I don't think, and I'm sure there are some people who might believe this, but I don't think people who are vaccinated pose any danger. Let's just say hypothetically, this vaccine is some major, I don't know, mind control thing, which it's probably not. At least to my knowledge, it's not. But I don't think that would affect those unvaccinated. So I can see the owner of the gym being like, I personally, me speaking as the owner of the gym, I personally don't agree with the vaccine, but to not dox, but to cut people who are from the gym, that doesn't make sense. That's the point I'm not getting. I can understand the hesitancy to get vaccinated. I can understand the acceptance of non-vaccinated people, but I can't wrap my head around the fact that vaccinated people are outright banned. Most places I've seen that aren't strict vaccine policy places, they allow a mix, vaccinated and unvaccinated. Both are allowed in. So this being the first thing I read this morning at 4:30, I've been confused for the last several hours.
Kyle, you and I both. Honestly, I'm still laughing at the fact that you said this sounds like more of a United States story rather than a Canada story, because it is true. A lot of my friends are like, oh, I want to move to Canada, you know, healthcare, this, that, the fourth. But this definitely feels like a political stance to me, because although vaccines should not be a political, like, you lean towards one side if you're getting the vaccine or you're not, or you leaning towards the other if you do get it. But I think this is like, it's so weird to me, because personally, I don't go to a boxing club, right? But I do go to the gym. And if people were to be like, oh, you can't come in because you have the vaccine. First of all, if you're operating a gym or a boxing club that allows people who are not vaccinated to just be, you know, dilly-dallying with no masks whatsoever, or whatever the case may be, I'm not going into that gym. I'm not going to the gym. Right. So for starters, I get that you're banning me, but like, first of all, if you're allowing that, I wouldn't even want to go to the gym. And I just think it's weird. It's weird to me. Like, why would you ban people who are, you know, like, again, I agree with you, Kyle. Like, I'm not going to force you to get a vaccine. I know everybody's like, oh, you should, because it'll just be for the, what is it called? Herd
Herd immunity, yes.
Yes, right. So, but I get it if people don't want to get it, right? Like, I get it. I understand you. Like, I see what you see, but we or just make a personal choice. But for you to be like banning people, you're taking it too far, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I have a question to ask about that.
Go ahead.
So, like, if you're an owner, right, and this could go like anywhere with this, but for unvaccinated people and vaccinated people to go to a gym, like, would it like be a distray where like if an owner like would have to ask a person about if they were or not, because isn't that a violation? Like, I mean,
yeah, that's a good question.
Listen.
I know here in Jersey,
yeah,
you're not supposed to ask for proof. I think between individual businesses you can, but Murphy said like it's not required to show proof.
I'm gonna go ahead, Patrina.
Sorry. No, all I was gonna say is like what kind of proof? Like, just say I wanted to walk into that gym, I could easily say that I am not vaccinated if I wanted to go in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying.
You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, that's a very good point.
Like,
hey, do you have a vaccination card? Nope. Okay, right. Walk right in.
Right? Like, what kind of proof do you want me to show? Like, I'm holding no card.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, Patrina. And this is kind of going to my point of saying how this is more like either a political thing or you just trying to go against what everybody is saying to do or whatever the case may be. Because if you really sit down and you think of the logic of these people that are, and it is their business, and people will make the choice of whether or not they want to continue to go. And at the end of the day, it's like they're a gym, and so they're all in their rights to choose whatever they want to do for their business. But if you really sit down and think of the logic behind this, you're like, where is the logic? Where is the logic?
Right.
However, going to like Campbell's point of like businesses, this is something that I feel very passionate about, and because my family owns like businesses, right? And I feel like, and I've said this before in previous shows, that when they lifted the mask mandate, they did not give specific instructions on how it would work. And I get it, free country, free choice, blah, 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 and trying to make everybody comfortable. However, you need to set some sort of guidelines, because if you don't, then people get upset with you. And this is not me just making assumptions. This is me like seeing it. Like, I've gone to like my family stores, and it's like, oh, like they get annoyed if you ask them to wear their mask, or they get annoyed if you ask them like, well, have you been vaccinated? And to answer Campbell's question, when they lifted the mask mandate, Governor Murphy, they basically said that small businesses or businesses in general have the choice to implement whatever it is that they want to implement.
Right.
So if businesses want to continue to ask people to wear masks, they can do so, if 6 feet apart and all that other good stuff. So they do have the option, but you have to also understand how annoyed other people get when they go inside a business and then you ask them like, oh, please wear your mask. And it's like a whole big thing.
Yeah, that's something, if I understand what you're saying correctly, that's one thing that has been kind of just wishy-washy. Like, when the mask mandates were a thing, we all knew the protocol: wear the mask, 6 feet apart, so on and so forth. But now it's a business to business basis, but no business has signs on the front door outlining what they want. And that's a little confusing.
Yeah, and and I'm telling you, because I've done it. Like I when I go work, like people will be like, well, it's legal to not have to wear a mask anymore. And I just get so annoyed because they give me such a big attitude. And it's like, oh my God, like, ma'am, I know that. You don't think I know that? But in this, and I have to be like, and sometimes I catch an attitude, and I know you shouldn't, but honestly, like, you have to understand, dealing all day with people who are very like reluctant to like follow, like, and I'm telling you, like, this.
So wait, they get annoyed at you? They get annoyed at you for wearing a mask?
No, for asking them to wear a mask.
Oh, like you as working in a store.
Yeah, so I'm the employee, and the shop, people are coming in, the customers, and I ask them like, oh, can you wear your mask? And it's like a whole big deal. Some people would just be like, okay, fine, whatever. But then to other people, it's like a whole big deal. They catch an attitude, then I catch an attitude, and it's just, it's not a good relationship, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I had to do. As working at Starbucks before like the mask mandate was lifted. People would come in without masks, but most of them actually a different story from you, Crystal. A lot of people actually were like, "Oh, okay, sorry, I forgot." Like it was actually I'm thankful I didn't have people that would fight me on it. I did have somebody fight me on wanting to use a bathroom that they weren't allowed to at the time, but I'm not going to get into that story. But either way, it's like, people like, I don't know. It's just, this is a whole different thing rather than masks. Like, I don't know. Like, at least I wonder if this gym is just like, at least the unvaccinated are wearing masks. I highly doubt it. Just knowing
the article
how the
didn't
story
say
is
anything
going.
about mask mandates. It was just strictly about the vaccine policies, and then like I mentioned, like other companies in the area or other businesses in the area.
Yeah,
but
I'm assuming if it didn't mention it, then they probably,
And the owner, it said in the article, the owner can't denied interviews at the time because he was, his words were he was swamped with work. So make of that what you will. Anyway,
swamped with work, with banning people who are not vaccinated. That's what he's swamped with.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my head around Patrina's point. Like, how do you prove how easy it is to prove or fake prove that you're not vaccinated?
Right. Like how? I want to know. I want to know what this like boxing gym is thinking. Like, how are they going to catch people that are vaccinated? I want to know.
No, I would say they have like the gym I used to work at. You had key cards you scanned your key card, you signed in, and there was a profile that came up. But I doubt there would be a medical history on that profile.
Maybe they asked for your immunization papers.
But then again, you could just fake them, right? I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, moving on to the vaccine in New Jersey. According to NJ.com, 49 people who were fully vaccinated have died from COVID. So of the 5 million, or of the over 5 million adults fully vaccinated in New Jersey, 49 have died due to coronavirus complications. Of those 49, over half of them had one or more underlying medical conditions. The underlying medical conditions consisted of 17 people with cardiovascular disease, 7 with diabetes, 9 with cancer or other immunocompromised diseases, 5 with chronic lung conditions, 3 with chronic kidney conditions, 1 with chronic liver conditions, and 5 with other chronic conditions. Donna Lusner, a spokeswoman at the state's Department of Health, says that all of the deaths in people occurred over 50 years of age, with 6 people between the ages of 50 and 64, 13 between the ages of 65 and 79, and 30 over the age of 80. State Communicable Disease Service Medical Director Ed Lifshitz has said, quote, it is important to point out that 49 deaths due to COVID among the 4.8 million fully vaccinated state residents is slightly greater than 1 in 100,000 fully vaccinated individuals. That means vaccines are about 99.999% effective in preventing deaths due to COVID-19. End quote. Those with underlying conditions, both vaccinated and unvaxxed, are still at risk as long as a majority of the population remains unvaccinated. And currently, about 70% of the New Jersey population is fully vaccinated, putting it at the top 10 in the country, 7th place to be exact, according to the CDC. So a bit of mix of good and bad information there. Bad, obviously, that despite the vaccine, these people unfortunately passed away. But good that we sit in 7th place amongst vaccinated populations.
Yeah, that is really good, and it makes me feel comfortable, But what I'm thinking about, like the people that have died due to COVID that were fully vaccinated, what I'm thinking is like, I know they're like older, and it's known that like the older people that get the vaccine, they don't develop symptoms when they get the vaccine. So for example, my grandpa, he's 95 and he has the vaccine, but he said he felt no symptoms whatsoever. He didn't have a sore arm. He didn't get like any sickness or anything, as if like nothing ever happened. So I'm thinking maybe like since like the people over the age of 80, maybe like most of them, if they haven't developed symptoms, that has to do with something the vaccine not working correctly.
Maybe.
That's just my opinion. I'm just assuming that. I'm not sure. You know.
So you're saying that like it's possible to they've gotten defective doses?
Not defective. I would just say for them it just works differently. Like I don't think it's just defective. I just think it works differently for them since they haven't developed the symptoms from it. I just think that maybe that has to do something with them like getting sick and like dying from COVID even though they're vaccinated.
Yeah. I mean, it like the article said, over half of the 49, it was like around 27, I think the article said specifically, had one or more underlying conditions. And we've known from the start that those who are A, older, and B have underlying medical conditions are at higher risk regardless. So it's does stick true to what we know about COVID in itself. We've known older and more immunocompromised people are at a higher risk. We've known the vaccine isn't 100% effective. So it's not really any shocking news from the story. Of course, it's unfortunate that despite all the medical help they were getting, these 49 people still passed away. But it's nothing like, oh, this is totally unexpected. How could this happen? Like, we all know these facts. We know the risk and all that stuff. I'm almost positive everybody who gets the COVID vaccine knows, at least to a degree, that like I might not be 100% safe, but I'm safer than if I wasn't.
Yeah, and I was going to say that I think it's terrible, obviously, that these 49 people have died, you know, but I think at the rate that people were dying before compared to right now, we definitely see the progress and we definitely see the vaccines working. Because had we still been like a year ago, you know, the numbers were like in the thousands. A lot of people were getting either tested positive or were sick in hospitals, all these other things. So I do want to like, you know, highlight that, you know, we are seeing progress. And I think also I feel like this is such an important story as well, because it kind of highlights the fact that even though you're vaccinated, you can still get COVID, right? And I think a lot of people should be aware of that. And I say that because, you know, I go outside too. I go to restaurants, I go to, you know, bars, movies, whatever the case may be. And, you know, I obviously, if I don't have to wear my mask, I won't. But I think that I see a lot of people with no masks either. They don't even carry one with them. I carry one with me at all times, but I see some people who don't carry masks with them. So I think this story is specifically important because it highlights that even though you are vaccinated, you can get COVID. So you should still, you know, try to hand sanitizer, wipes. I mean, that's at least what I do. I don't know what everybody else does, but I always, you know, still carry my hand sanitizer, my wipes, mask, all that good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, especially since there's definitely going to be like a bunch of people out there that aren't vaccinated and they're still not going to wear their masks. And, you know, it's something you just got to like be aware of, and just even know, like, for people that are like listening in, that even though like you're vaccinated, it doesn't mean like you're safer than you were before, but that doesn't mean you're fully like safe from COVID and getting COVID.
Exactly. Yeah. And unless I'm wrong, Fauci has said something recently too about COVID and the vaccine, right, Patrina?
That is true. So on Sunday, the White House chief medical advisor, Anthony Fauci said that U.S. health officials are considering revising mask guidance for those that are vaccinated for COVID-19. Fauci told CNN's State of the Union that, quote, "This is under active consideration." Fauci also said that has also emphasized that local governments could determine their own rules. Places such as Los Angeles and St. Louis, Missouri are requiring masks indoors once again for those who are vaccinated, while other cities are considering reinstating the rule. Infections of COVID-19 have been rising in all 50 states, especially the states with the most unvaccinated people. Vivek Murthy, the U.S. Surgeon General, stated that 97% of hospital admissions and 99.5% of COVID deaths occurred among all unvaccinated people. Currently, the U.S. population is 49% vaccinated, and according to the Kaiser Family Foundation Vaccine Monitor, those who won't get the vaccine were reported to be 23% Republican, 16% Independent, and 2% Democrat. And the governor of Florida, Governor DeSantis, says, quote, "These vaccines are saving lives." So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see all these states and whatnot, they're all like mandating masks again. I wouldn't be surprised because with the numbers, I mean, it's not as bad as it used to be, but then again, like, it's rising, it's a concern. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure not everywhere is going to mandate it, but I feel like we're gonna see a lot of places mandating some masks again.
Right. It's unfortunate that this article didn't have anything about New Jersey. Because
right.
This is where we live. We might need to know, but I'm sure we can find news on that
Kyle
somewhere
doesn't
else.
care about the rest of the country. He's just concerned about himself.
Look, I very rarely leave my house, number one, much less the state. I would like to know what's going on here because for the past, 15 months, I've been in the dark. I don't know what the rules are anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a place such as Florida, I feel like it's an important place to, like, I think, require masks again. I feel like that Florida's very much like a touristy area where people come from everywhere. And so, like, I feel like this is very important for, like, everybody to know about because a lot of people visit Florida from everywhere. So it's like, I mean, Jersey, on the other hand, I would like to hear about that too, though, just because we do have a lot of tourists as well.
Right. I'm sure we can find it somewhere. And Crystal mentioned earlier today that Florida is currently a hotspot, so not great. But the other problem with that is Florida is a very touristy state, especially Orlando, with Disney and Universal and all that. But as we've seen, even here in Jersey, mask and heat do not mix well, considering some of the facts that even Murphy has said, oh, yeah, children in, I believe it was summer camps, probably shouldn't wear masks in the sweltering heat. And furthermore, New Jersey, the temperatures recently have dubbed New Jersey the new Florida. So I can only imagine it's worse down there.
Oh, my God, yeah. And like you said, with the kids not having to wear masks. It was a summer camp, you said?
I believe Murphy said summer camps, but it might have also extended to schools as well.
Yeah, especially like places like that, like young. I think it's 12 and up that can get the vaccine, right?
Yes,
12 and under now,
still can, yeah.
Yeah, so like kids that are attending these summer camps that are like under the age of 12 and aren't vaccinated, I guess it's a concern in a way. I mean, I know kids can't really like spread it as, I guess, or like contract it as much as like,
yeah, they're not as
older.
high of risk for COVID, but it's a disease you can still, or right. Not a disease, it's a virus, and they can still get it. They're just, I don't know if, I believe the wording was like, just less susceptible to it.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, wearing masks during this weather is the worst. And I'm saying this because I don't drive, so wherever I go, I either walk or take an Uber. But for the most part, I walk. And I used, like, a couple of months ago, when I would walk outside, I would take off my mask. Like, if I was just out in the open and walking down the street, I would just walk without it because I breathe heavy. I'm, walking. It's not a good combination. And I remember my brother was like, oh, like, why don't you wear your mask? And I'm like, first of all, you drive. So unless you are walking on the streets with this heat, then I don't want to hear it. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear any comments from you because it is hard. I see it. Like, it's hard. It's hard and it's like uncomfortable. And it's so like, especially like for like people who have skin problems like myself, it's so annoying to have to wear the mask. And may I add that a couple months ago, when I went to one of my dermatologist appointments, he had basically said that people right now, because they were wearing masks, they were breaking out more. And so like a lot, his visits to him had increased tremendously because people were trying to like either get a prescription to kind of like help with their acne. And so yeah, so I think it's important to note that it's hard. It's not as easy people think it is. And I also wanted to say that I think it's interesting how in Florida has always been one of those states that does not require you to wear a face mask. So
Right, they were one of the first to like not drop it, but like not mandate it.
Yeah, like you had the option obviously, but you didn't have to. And you know, now it's like it's always been like a hot spot. Like the numbers have always been high, and not only because of spring break or people just visiting, especially like in Miami and stuff like that. So I just found it interesting that, you know, now their governor saying the vaccines are saving lives. I think we have to revisit that mask mandate. Aside from the vaccines.
Right. I think that because like once the vaccines were like kind of a thing, I think Florida just like automatically was just like, all right, no masks. Like I think that's just how it really worked. And now that like I guess the governor of Florida, DeSantis, is like kind of seeing like a little bit of an increase in like these COVID deaths and whatnot, I feel like that it's kind of a realization, you know?
Right.
I think so.
But I will say this, at least here, like I don't like wearing masks. I don't think anyone willingly does. But something like this, what I'm wearing now, the neck thing, actually has been helpful in some areas, and like it just provides protection. Like even if I'm not wearing it and it sits around my neck, I'm not going to do it now because I'm legally required to wear it in studio. But if it like sits around my neck, I went to Six Flags with it because I haven't been there in who knows how long, and I don't know the rules, but I brought it just in case. And since it's one of these ones that sits around my neck, I didn't have to worry about it at all. And I also didn't get burnt because of this. So I would say masks aren't fun, but I don't think there's some pros to them. And I think we can say that about everything with the pandemic. We would never want to go through this again in a million years, but we've come out of it with some insights, especially in like online instruction, what can and can't be done in person and stuff along those lines.
Kyle, you're gonna hate me, but I don't know what exactly your mask that you have right now is called, the thing that goes over your neck and over your mouth. But I don't know if you remember, but when the masks were mandated, when they first, you know, started getting like required, they basically said that those didn't really work because it didn't really have like a filter or something. So I'm just and I say that because I remember during class we had like a discussion, and it was actually the news director, Lewis. He basically had one of those, and one of the professors pointed out that it's really not, people don't recommend it because it doesn't really do much. So
Okay.
I just wanted to put that out there, Kyle. Just I'm worried.
Right. Well,
looking
fair
out for
to know.
you.
Fair to know. If I'm going to make a decision, it's better being an informed one.
I'm looking out for you,
that
Kyle.
being said, thank you. But with that being said, we're going to take a quick break, and we will come back with some more Olympic news, specifically Michael Phelps. Stay tuned here for the rest of the Morning Buzz here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair.
Hey, you're listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, where music stays cool. Cooler than a dog on a skateboard. Okay, I take that back, but we're still pretty cool.
And cool we are here on the Monday Morning Buzz Summer Edition here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. And I gotta say, I don't know if skateboarding is an Olympic sport, but if a dog on a skateboard did enter, I think he would immediately win gold.
Kyle, it actually is an Olympic sport.
Give that dog a medal.
Agreed.
But further speaking of the Olympics, Michael Phelps has had something to say. Patrina, what does he have to say?
That's true, Kyle. Michael Phelps is everywhere at the Tokyo Olympics except for in the water. Before this past Sunday, the last medal session in the Olympic swimming was in Atlanta in 1966, where Phelps was not a part of the USA team. When Phelps first visited Tokyo, the Tokyo 2020 swim meet, he was filled with lots of different emotions, but mostly felt at peace when he was there, and he was excited to be back. While in Tokyo, Phelps is currently working on his swimwear line, and he's also a spokesperson for the Amiga Timing, where he is also a husband and a father of 3. In this year's Olympics, Phelps is really looking forward to the duel between the U.S. freestyle Katie Ledecky, who we talked about earlier, and the Australian rival, I might be saying this wrong, Ariarne, I'm not too sure. I don't want to butcher it. Titmus in the 400 and 200 freestyle. Phelps also opens up about his life recently battling ADHD and depression and says, quote, I've been on a little journey just understanding more about myself and why I work a certain way. I'm happy where I am, and I don't miss the training, the competitive part. I'm happy with being a dad and being a husband. During retirement, Phelps also continues to swim at home where he needs his peace and quiet. Now, I don't know too much about swimming, but I do know that Phelps has over 20 medals.
Yeah.
If I could say, yeah.
I believe it's 28 medals, 23 of which are gold.
Yeah, that's...
Oh boy, that's impressive. Pretty impressive.
Now, I did see something on this no, not this article. It might have been something different about, was it how do you say her name? Could somebody please tell me how to say her name? Ariarne
Timus. I mentioned earlier in my sportscast that she did win the 400 meter freestyle. And Ledecky did take the silver medal. So, but if you want to talk about Michael Phelps in our generation, you would say, in swimming, this guy literally won any gold medal you can think of from his debut in 2004, I believe. Then Beijing, he won a lot. London, he won a lot. Rio, of course, he won a lot. So, I mean, he's considered the GOAT in our eyes in swimming.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
I believe the article mentioned it exactly like that. Like they referred to him as the GOAT in the article.
And for those who don't know, just in case, the GOAT basically means greatest of all times. And I say this because people used to say GOAT like near me or like around me, and I would be like, what does that even mean?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and then they finally, because I'm not very good with slang, but in case you are wondering, GOAT means greatest of all time.
Yes. But I mean, this is pretty cool. Like, even though he's retired from Olympic swimming, you know, he's still participating. He's there currently in Tokyo where it's going on. And I believe it also said he was not sportscaster, but like the sports commentator. Yeah. That too for the races. From what I read in the article, I don't know too much about sports, but from what it said, like he was there commenting on the race alongside a few other people, which is, you know, pretty cool because you have an expert swimmer commenting on the sport of swimming. It doesn't get more accurate than that.
Kyle, I'm laughing because you said you don't really know about sports, but you know, lucky for all of us, and I don't know about Patrina, but for me, I don't know anything about sports either. So we thankfully have Kimball to always, you know, help us understand things. I will say that I I think this is great that he has like a whole, swimwear line and whatnot. However, I will say that obviously, kind of going off of what Campbell's saying and like what the article said of naming him like the GOAT, which is the greatest of all time, Michael Phelps. I don't know, I don't really follow sports, but for a minute there, I didn't like him. And I'm gonna say why. I thought that he was the same guy as Michael Andrews, who basically is the swimmer who made the decision to swim in the summer games without being vaccinated against COVID-19. And for some odd reason, like I saw that in the news, and I just saw like the first name, which was Michael, and I automatically assumed it was him.
Right.
But it's not. So no dislike towards him. It was Michael Andrews who chose not to be vaccinated and swim and compete, I should say.
Oh,
so I
didn't hear about that one.
Yeah. It was like the LA Times put out an article, and just a whole bunch of people were calling him out, saying like, oh, for example, Maya DiRado, who is she said, as a former member of Team USA, I'm disappointed in Michael's decision to attend the Olympics unvaccinated and his reasoning behind it. And then she goes on to explain it.
I didn't know vaccines. I mean, it makes sense that they would be, but I didn't know they were. Are they required to be in the Olympics?
That's a great question.
Campbell, do you know that?
I'm not sure at the answer for that. But what I've seen so far, but like you said before, Michael Phelps being at Tokyo, being an analyst, being a color commentator, as we say in sports, having an Olympic champion, and basically an American hero the past decade and a half in the eyes of American sports fans, be there and analyze what he's seen, what the growth of any other swimmer, male and female, in the world is amazing. But I did read and see how athletes were flown to Tokyo and they had to like be separated within 6 feet. They had to be situated with their belongings, and they had to wait like an hour and a half from COVID results and stuff.
Oh, wow.
They had to get a COVID test on site at the airport, I believe, in Tokyo. And and those planes to Tokyo are a very long flight. So
yeah, depending on where you're flying from, definitely here in America, I believe this might not be entirely accurate, but it's like the furthest point on the opposite end of the world before you start coming back around, something like that. It's roughly that distance. I know that. Well,
Kyle, I'm not...
certain parts of this country. I think like New Jersey and Tokyo might be like roughly in that area. The East Coast of Tokyo is like halfway across the world, maybe.
I Googled the whole question of whether the individuals need to be vaccinated to compete in the Olympics. And based on an article that Forbes put out back in July, it basically said the International Olympic Committee states in its playbook for the Olympics that athletes, quote, will not be required to have received a vaccine in order to participate, though they are encouraged. Yeah. So I guess that answers our question. They were not required. It makes sense though. However, I will say that I don't know how we feel about this, but you know how Tokyo right now, their cases are going up. So
yeah, we read about that a few weeks ago, or we talked about that a few weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah, and they're still going up. So
yeah, but I can understand. I can understand why it's not required. Everyone's so split about whether, like, a lot of countries are split about requiring it, not requiring it. It's an option, mandatory, yada yada yada. That for a worldwide event such as this, I think it would just be too much of a hassle for them to even try to agree on mandating it.
Right. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Patrina.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, it kind of makes sense to why they wouldn't require it, due to like everyone like being there and competing. They'd like lose the people that they need, I guess. So
I do think they cut down on live audience though. Like I'm pretty sure they restricted that.
I think they did. I saw like when they were lighting the torch, And I didn't see a lot of people in the crowd except for like maybe like, I don't know, somewhere like in the middle of wherever they are, the stadium, whatever it is.
Right.
I'm not really sure what that was all about, but
Campbell, did you have something to say?
They said that I believe no spectators will be allowed at any event. I believe. I remember in the early morning this past Saturday, I was watching the United States women's national team play against New Zealand, and there were no spectators in the stands, so it was just dead silence. And they piped in crowd noise. So that's what they've been doing for the past year until fans came back. So
that's gotta be awkward. Like probably some sports more than others. Awkward,
but it's kind of cool to hear the athletes talk and communicate.
No, yeah, definitely that part.
So,
but like to be on the field or pool or court or whatever sport it is, and just be doing what you trained your whole life to do with no one around.
For athletes' perspective, it ruins I think it brings down the morale a bit because they feed off a crowd so much.
Right.
And the emotion of the crowd and the intensity of how a crowd gets, especially if it's like a home team or probably an away crowd too. Like they lose that like mental energy aspect of feeling a crowd's energy and getting behind them.
Exactly. The only sport where that might not make a difference is tennis, where you have to, and golf, where you have to be quiet anyway.
Unless if it's a superstar like Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, or if Tiger Woods on a Sunday he's wearing red, crowds will go crazy.
That is true. They go crazy at certain points, but you always got to be quiet when they're actually playing. I don't understand. Golf I can kind of understand. Tennis, I don't get why you have to be quiet during tennis.
Kaya, you don't play tennis, so that's why you wouldn't understand.
I'm aware. I'm very well aware. But why are you allowed to make so much noise during soccer, baseball, basketball, football, but not tennis, which is roughly the same type of sport as those other ones? Like golf, there's a difference. It's more of a solo sport. And I'm talking nonsense here. I'm the least qualified person to say anything about sports, but golf and tennis seem like different kinds of sports to me.
Well, I think I hate to interrupt you for that, but
no, go ahead.
But tennis wise, it's really individually, unless they play doubles, and so they have double pairs for tournaments or whatnot. But
okay,
I mean, yeah, you get to see all the stud tennis players. I mean, the Williams sisters, Novak Djokovic, of course, Rafa Nadal, as I mentioned, Roger Federer, of course, and like in golf, I mean, nowadays Brooks Koepka, Bryce DeChambeau, and I mean all these guys, Rory McIlroy, of course, and you get to see all these great players. So, and these athletes.
Campbell.
So, I know I'm stealing the spotlight for a bit, but I mean, just to see those people, and I know like golf and tennis get a kind of a bad like rep sometimes for being a respectable minded sport because I mean, it's been for a game that's been for centuries. So and they keep those rules intact to maintain the respect that they have for a game that is really more of, I would say, mental than physical, because I know tennis you're going back and forth and stuff, but it's a mental aspect too, and golf has more mental than physical perspective on it too. But I mean, like you said, baseball, basketball, hockey, football, and soccer that we say here, but over and down in South America and or overseas in Europe, they all say football because that's how it originated.
Right, football.
Yes, and but I mean, like the amount of joy that supporters have for their teams, or as they say, clubs, I mean, myself, I'm a fan of a European football club that I've been a fan for since I was a kid, and I cheer for countries that come from me. So, but I mean, it's just like I don't know how to put it into words, like the exuberating experience, I guess you would say, of watching anything. So. I mean, when I was watching the Euros with my family, and Italy won the whole thing. I mean, I'm Italian, so I mean they beat England in penalties, and I was going absolutely crazy with this with one of a colleague of mine who was rooting for Italy, and the rest of them were all rooting for England. They were all upset. So it's but I just love watching sports. I mean, that's what I'm here for. So yeah.
I mean, that's cool. That's very like I said, I don't know a lot about sports, so I'm very interested in everything you just said, because I didn't know a lot about that. Like, a lot of players I'm not very familiar with, but it sounds very interesting. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. Campbell, how long do the Olympics go on?
I believe it's through a week, and I think into 2 weeks, I believe.
Okay, so we might have more to talk about next week then.
Maybe.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to that. But that brings us to the end of the last Summer Morning Buzz Monday edition of July. And we will be back in August with more stories. And yeah, that's it. Stay tuned to the rest of WMSC. If you're interested, the Morning Buzz will be back tomorrow with different stories and different hosts. And we will see you next week. Have a great day, everyone.